happen. Anything can happen. Here we go. I have a daughter. Her name's Eloise. She's 9 years old. I also have a son. His name's Axel. He's 7. And I have a little daughter named Lila, and she's 5. Now, we live in the Los Angeles area. My wife and I, when we first started having kids, we lived in the Beverly Hills area. And I didn't know it was so impossible and so difficult to find a preschool for the kids. So here we are, having a baby, and everyone who we're going, hey, you better start looking for preschools for your little daughter Eloise. And we're like, what? She's just born. What are you talking about? They go, no, you better start looking because they're hard to get into. So we start looking and we start searching. And as Eloise starts to get to be about 3 and going on 4, going on 5, we get rejected by like 9 preschools. I'm like, I didn't go to preschool. Now I'm getting rejected by 9 of them. Finally, we find a preschool that accepts Eloise. So she's 4, going on 5. And we're going to this fancy preschool in Santa Monica. Now, it's really expensive. All the kids are very fancy. The families, very fancy. And the school used to drive me crazy. There would be kids getting dropped off at school, at the preschool by nannies and in town cars. And it used to drive me nuts. So all of you on this live cast who have kids or have had kids, you know that when you have kids in school, they're going to birthday parties every weekend. Well, that's what was true for my wife, Dawn, and me. So here we are, every weekend going to another kid's 4 or 5-year-old birthday party. And when you do this in LA, these birthday parties are more extravagant than the last. So you come walking in, you walk in the backyard, and sometimes you see Madonna over there. Sometimes you see a banjo player over there, a string quartet there, a trapeze artist there. I'm like, what kind of birthday parties are these? So up comes the weekend. It's time for us to go to another one of these parties. So my wife and I get in the car with Axel, who's probably 3 at this time, Eloise, who's 4, about to turn 5. We go to another one of these fancy birthday parties. And we show up to this beautiful home with a beautiful family. We greet them, we say hi, and then we walk usually to the backyard. And when I walk into these backyards, I'm like, man, look at this back here. And I usually feel out of place. So I find myself standing in the middle of the grass. And there's kids playing over there and swing sets over there and all kinds of entertainment, crazy clowns everywhere. So I'm standing here alone, just like always at these birthday parties. And right over here is a group of the other dads of these kids. And these guys are all entertainment lawyers, and they're all entertainment agents. And they get in this huddle, and all they talk about is which one of their clients walked down the red carpet and how they were responsible for that celebrity walking down the red carpet. And that's all they talked about. So I would never talk with them. I would stand over here by myself, never knowing what to do. One day at this party, Axel, my son, who's going on 3, comes running up to me, and he has found this little tiny white football. It's plastic. It's all dirty. It's all covered in mud. I think he found it in the shrubs there in this backyard, right? So he comes up to me. He could barely put words together, and he goes, Dad, ball. And I'm like, cool. He wanted to play catch. I go, good. Now I feel at home. So me and Axel, back and forth, back and forth. He's throwing, I'm catching, I'm throwing back, he's catching. One time, I throw the ball, he drops it. I go like this, Axel, don't let the ball touch the ground. And Axel goes, oh yeah, Dad, oh yeah. He reaches down, picks it up really quick, and keeps playing catch with me. So right when I said that, this whole huddle of entertainment agents and entertainment lawyers, the whole huddle stood up like this. And they elected one of them to come over and have a little chat with me. And as me and Axel are playing catch like this, I could see this guy coming. I knew what I was about to hear. And this guy comes walking up to me and he goes, excuse me, sir, can I have a word with you? And I said, sure. And he said, what did you just say to that boy? And I said, well, I told that boy, don't let the ball touch the ground. And he says, really? Why would you say that to that boy? And I said, that boy is my son. And I say that to my son because that's a rule in our house. We don't let the ball touch the ground. And this guy says, really? And why would that be a rule in your house? And I said, because that was a rule in my house when I was growing up. Because my brother and I got a football every Christmas. My dad got me us a football. My brother would throw it 1,000 times a day. I would catch it 1,000 times a day. And me and my brother figured out that if that ball never touched the ground for that whole year, that ball would make it to the next Christmas because we weren't getting a new ball if that ball was damaged. That's why it's a rule in our house. And this guy says, really? And how did that turn out for you? And I said, I was really happy that he asked that. And I said, well, it turned out pretty good. Me and my brother both played in the NFL. And this guy says, really? And as he walks away, he just could not let it go. He looks back. He's going to go report back to the huddle over here. And as he's walking away, he goes, sir, just so you know, I would never say that to my boy. And I didn't say this, but this is what I wanted to say. I wanted to say, yeah, I wouldn't say it to your boy either. He's being buried over there in the sand by the girls. Right after he said that, right after he went back and reported to them, I grabbed Axel. I said, Axel, pick up the ball. We're leaving. Axel grabs the ball. We start heading out. I said to my wife, sweetie, Dawn, we're out of here. Let's go. Grab Eloise. My wife grabs Eloise, and I'm ushering them right out the front door of this place. And my wife's going, what's the matter? What happened? What happened? We walk out to our car. We put the kids in the car seats, and my wife and I get in the car, and I start driving home. And I'm driving, and I'm not saying a word. Everything is quiet. And finally, my wife goes, sweetie, what happened? Why are we leaving? What's going on? And I just said, we're moving. We're moving. I'm not comfortable with my life in the hands of amateurs. I'm not comfortable raising my kids around people who the highest thing in their mind, the highest level that they could ever reach in their mind is mediocrity. I'm not comfortable, therefore we're moving to a neighborhood and to a community where excellence, like not letting the ball ever touch the ground, is more the norm than the rule. And that's what we did. We moved. We left. I think that I believe that leadership is our most precious commodity. And you cannot lead people to mediocrity. I mean, you can. And people are doing it now. And they seem to have a voice and some leadership muscle now, but they are slowly but surely going away. Because I believe in excellence. I believe that we are the best. I believe we're born to be the best. And that's how I speak to my kids, and that's how I speak to people on this live cast, and that's how I speak to everybody around me, because I see the best in them. So think about this for 1 second. Think about this, because some people say, well, Dad, my kids say sometimes, well, Dad, the girls at school say that that's being conceited, us wanting to be the best. I said, okay, well, let's just think about this for a second. Let's think of the day that we were born. Like all of you on this live cast right now, just think back of the day of your conception. Anybody have any memories of that? Most people say no, but I've had a few people say, yeah, I remember that day. The day that you were conceived, 3 million sperm cells were released. 300 million sperm cells were released. All with one job. 300 million and you all had one job, and that job was to infiltrate That egg. A million years of design, of evolution, have led 300 million sperm cells to fertilize one egg. So it was you, and the odds against you was 300 million to 1. Now, if we took a stack of 300 million pieces of paper, just a little piece of paper like this, 300 million pieces of paper, and we stacked them on top of each other. 300 million pieces of paper, just like that, is higher than the Empire State Building. So that was the odds against you, okay? And you tell me who won that race. Who won the very first race that you entered? Yeah, you, me, we won. We're the ultimate champions. Think of it, if someone said, hey, you could win a gold medal in, say, the backstroke. You could win a gold medal, but the odds against you are 300 million to 1. Would you take those odds? You probably wouldn't, but you won. You're the winner. So don't tell me that you're not the best. I speak to people who they are, not who they aren't. Our politicians, our media, our print, our publishing, our gurus, our speakers, our so-called leaders are speaking to who you are not. And I'm only interested in speaking to who you are, and you're the best, and you beat the odds 300 million to 1, so don't argue with me. It's how it is. That's how I speak to people. That's how I train people. That's who we are. Now, today, we're going to dig deep into your personal story and the power of it. It is the most powerful thing that you've got. I don't care where you went to school. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care who you're related to. It doesn't matter. What matters is your story. The story of how you got here. The story of why you built the business that you've built. Why do you have a dream and a vision to build this thing? This is what people need to know. This is how you get to be the leader. I'm only interested in being the best. To be the best, you have to know your story, and you have to physicalize it, and you have to let that sucker out. You have to express that story everywhere you go. Now, there's plenty of studies that have been done about this. I told you last time you saw me, the reason you're here, you saw me talk, and you saw me share. You know, this company, I'll just remind you, Oxford Analytica, a guy saw me speak, and he saw me talking about the story, everybody's story, and how it is the golden goose, how it is the way that they are going to take their business to the top, not to the next level. Like, there's no such thing as levels in business. There's no such thing as levels in relationships. There's the top, and then there's nothing else. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing else. We're going to take your company, your business, your relationships to the very top, and for you to express how you got here, what you are building, so that we can follow. Remember the story I told you about Oxford Analytica? The guy came up to me afterwards, and he goes, do you know, Bo, how you're talking about this story being the key to the kingdom? Do you know you're right? And I said, oh, great. I'm so happy that I'm right, because for me it was instinctual. But this guy had the analytics to back me up, and he sent them to me. And he sent me a study of leadership all the way back to the middle of the Roman Empire, all the way back to Julius Caesar, all the way to 2012 presidential election. So every leader in between Julius Caesar and 2012 presidential election, every leader, including Lady Gaga, including Osama bin Laden, of all people. It wasn't just of political leaders. It was of people who people followed. And the statistics come up with the one thing. They come up with the very most important thing that all of those leaders since Julius Caesar's time have had in common. And guess what it is? Guess what ability is number one that they all share and they've all had to master? The ability is this. If you're going to lead, which is what I'm asking you to do, If you're going to lead, then the number one ability you must master is you must have the ability to tell your own story. Because people don't know how to follow you. They don't know how to pay you. They don't know what to do with you unless you lay down connective tissue for them. And the only way you can lay down connective tissue for them is through you, your personal story. Why are you here? What are you here to do? What are you building? Where is your vision? Where are you going to take us so that we can follow you? That is the number. So the futurist Rolf Jensen, who's the director of the Copenhagen Institute of Future Studies, he wrote a book called The Dream Society. He's a futurist. He looks into the future and he makes predictions. Well, his prediction for this century is this: the highest paid person in this century will be the storyteller. The highest paid person in this century will be the storyteller, regardless of occupation. So it doesn't matter what you're selling. It doesn't matter what your company is. What matters is the connective tissue of humanity that you give to it. Now, you remember from the last time that I trained you, there's 3 critical steps that you must take to impact your people as far as your company, as far as your story. And the number 1 is you have to keep your story personal. Even though you may have built a big business, even though you might have thousands of people following you, the more personal your story, the more universal it becomes to those clientele, to those future clients. The more personal, the more impact it has out here. So look, for example, what I did earlier to start off this webcast. What did I do? I started with a personal story. Now, I've got 100 stories similar to that. You know, they're defining moments in my life where I had to make a decision. And in that particular story, it defined who I am. It defined my mindset so that my audience, you in this case, are listening going, okay, I'm either connected with Bo because of his story about his son Axel and these agents and lawyers. I'm either with Bo or I'm not with Bo. I either like him or I don't like him. I either trust him or I don't trust him. So if you're still on this live cast, then you related to that story in some way, somehow. I've built my business based on stories exactly like that. I don't tell people about my business. I tell them a personal story of why I am the way I am and how I think and where I'm headed in this world and how I'm going to help their life and make it better. I want you to do the same. That's the first most critical step. The second most critical step is physicality. Physicality, a lost art in this world that we live in. I've been trained by the greatest physical coach, movement coach in the world. His name is Jean-Louis Rodrigue. And Jean-Louis has dedicated his whole life to the study of the movement of human beings and predator animals. So you and me are predators, right? We're predators. We're also the most dangerous predator on the planet. So think of lions and tigers and leopards and cheetahs and killer whales, great white sharks, falcons, eagles. They are predators. They're hunting prey. You and me are exactly the same. This is how I was trained to be on stage. And the only reason I was trained to be on stage and in front of camera as a predator is because, as the theory goes, people don't have the ability to look away from you if you're actually not going to apologize for being a predator, for being dangerous, for loving your life and expressing it that way, and loving your company enough to express it how you see it and how you can help people. That's why I was trained that way. I'm also trained by the guy who works with the FBI. He works with the FBI because we have FBI agents infiltrating cells over in the Middle East, right? So these guys are Middle Eastern descent, but they're Americans. And they work for the FBI, and their job is to infiltrate the cells over in the Middle East to find out what is going on. Well, what happens a couple of years ago was these guys were being killed at an alarming rate. So these guys are being murdered right on the spot. What's happening to them is they're working their way into this, friends enough to allow them in. The minute they go to hug and embrace the leader of that cell over in the Middle East, they step away from the guy and they kill him. They kill him because his body is betraying him. His body is betraying him. So the FBI, because of this rate of deceased FBI agents, they call my guy, Jean-Louis Rodrigue. They call him. He's a performance coach. He helps the best cellist in the world, the best violinist in the world, the best gymnast in the world, the greatest performers like, Leonardo DiCaprio, trains him, Tobey Maguire, to get their body physically expressive enough so that people can't look away from them. That's why it's so critical for you, because there's only one promise I make. I do an event twice a year. And in this event, it's a 3-day event. And Jean-Louis Rodrigue comes into that event for a day. And what he does with the business owners that I work with and the entrepreneurs that I work with is he gives them that predator style back to them. He gives them that permission back. He gets his hands on people so that they move like they're naturally supposed to move. And their story is being expressed through this body that people are unable to look away from. That's what I want from you. That's what I want for you. So that people have to pay attention to you. You just cannot be dismissed. People keep the camera on you a little bit longer. People don't think about going to the bathroom. People are watching you on stage and in front of and doing presentations. They don't look away. So when people come to my 3-day event, which I'll tell you about a little bit later, the promise is this, and it's the only promise that I make to the people that I work with. If you do what I say, or more importantly, if you do what I do, then the promise is this. People will not have the ability to look away from you. Now I want you to think about that for a second. I want you to think about what that means for your life. Okay? Think about your home life just for a second. Just think about your home life. Your kids, your spouse. What if they don't have the ability to look away from you? What kind of life do you have then? That's how I train people. Now, take yourself to your business. Take yourself to a stage where you're giving a presentation. Take yourself to the boardroom. Take yourself to a bar where you're having a glass of wine with somebody. And that business meeting, that presentation, people don't have the ability to look away from you. That's ultimate power. The only way to do that is to take your story, and I mean the most personal one that you've got. Attach molecules, these predatory molecules, to the story so that when you're moving around, when you're talking, when you're walking into Starbucks, people have got to deal with you. They've got to deal with you because you're a real human being who is present, who has a story and is going someplace. That is what I train people to do. So the first thing is personal. The more personal, the more universal. The second most critical step is physicality. Physicality. And the third most important critical step that you have to learn is generosity. And I told you the story last time, if you saw it, about Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice was a teammate of mine. He's the greatest football player ever to play the game, and there's no one even close. So generous, gave so much of himself every time he caught the ball, every time to the end zone. Everyone else was half-assing it. Everyone else was jogging. This guy is the greatest player ever to play the game, yet he never jogs. Never. Every time these hands touch a ball, this body ends up in an end zone somewhere. Well, there's no accidents that he is the most generous person that I've ever met. He's also the person who has scored more touchdowns than anybody in the history of the game because he has trained himself to give of himself regardless of where, when, practice, not practice, game, doesn't matter. When these hands touch a ball, this body ends up in an end zone. It's how he's trained. That's how I'm going to train you. It is the most generous act I've ever seen, the art of giving all of oneself all of the time. That is your job. As a leader, and every leader, all the way back to Julius Caesar, has had to do one thing, and they've had to master one thing, the most crucial thing. What is it? What is it? You got to master you. The telling of you. The story of you. Why are you here? How did you even get here? What were you up against? I want to know that. You combine those three elements and you have mastered the telling of you. Watch your income go through the roof. Watch your relationships go through the roof. You do that kind of training, people don't have the ability to look away from you, so they follow. And as soon as people follow you, you got to take them to where you want to take them. That's your vision. That's where we're going. That's all I'm interested in this lifetime. That is it. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to do a couple of exercises. Now listen, I want you to do these exercises. I know you may be sitting, in the kitchen or at home. I don't care. I want you to commit to doing these, because you do these and you separate yourself from everyone else. I only like working with the best. It's what I love. It's what I'm attracted to. I don't work with anybody who's second place. I don't like second place. I'm just not, it doesn't do anything for me. I want you to think and get your mind in that same place. 300 million to 1 odds. I want the best. I want the best. So when I ask you to go through these exercises, I want you to take the time and go through the exercise, because we're about to capture the most crucial thing in your business and in your life. And that's the telling of you. Okay? Here's what I want you to do. If you don't have it now, I want you to run and I want you to grab some paper and a pen, because you're going to do some writing. So I'm going to give you a second to go do that. In the meantime, if you have any questions at all during this telecast, okay, I want you to submit them. I think that we've probably got some coming in already, but I want you to submit questions, and after I get done training you a little bit, I'll actually answer your questions, all right? So you and I can have that kind of dialogue, and I'll answer anything that you have, because this, the only thing I want for you is you've spent your whole life mastering you. You spent your whole life mastering you, your whole life. Now we're going to master the expression of that life so that people know how to follow you. That's all we're going to do. Okay, is everybody back? Submit your questions. If you have questions, submit them. We'll try to get to as many as we can. Here's the exercise. Get your piece of paper. I want you to put your pen on the top of that piece of paper. And this is how we capture your defining moment. Before we do that, let's just go through a little exercise. Ready? I want you to think of the greatest moment in your life. I want you to think of the moment you're most proud of. That moment. Greatest moment of your life. Proudest moment of your life. Everybody got it? Okay. Forget about that one. Not a good story. It's not a good story. I know that's the one you probably share a lot. It's just not a good story. If you notice, every movie, every great story that you've ever been a part of your whole life never started at the top. Okay? So now I want you to do a little 5-second experiment. I want you to think of your lowest moment. The moment that you looked around and there were no answers. Probably a moment you don't want to share. I'm not very proud of. That's a good story. That's where you begin the story. I'll give you a quick example of one of mine. a defining moment in my life. I told you when to start this telecast, which was the Axel story about not letting the ball touch the ground. So my whole life is based on not letting the ball touch the ground. That's why I've been successful. That's why my marriage is successful, because I don't let the ball touch the ground in my marriage. See what I mean? My parenting is successful because I don't let the ball touch the ground. My business is successful because I don't let the ball touch the ground. I got to play in the NFL because I don't let the ball touch the ground. See what I mean? That's how I'm made. It's a defining moment. It says who I am, okay, through story instead of me having to say it. First time I ever got to play in a competitive sport, I think I was probably 9 or 10, and I was trying out for the Little League team. And my brother, who's 17 months older than me, he's the greatest athlete that I ever saw. And still to this day, he's the greatest athlete I've ever seen. So imagine when you're 9, 10 years old and your brother's a year older and he's the greatest thing you've ever seen, and then you're trying to keep up. So all I wanted, they had this tryout period for Little League. My biggest dream of my whole life was to play on the same team with my brother. And this was my first chance. And my brother and I are out playing catch in the backyard, and the phone rings, and my mom answers the phone, and she comes running out to the backyard. Remember in those days, remember the long cord on the phone would stretch like 30 miles? I mean, ours was so long, she could go all the way to the backyard. It was stretching, and she yells out the back door, "Boys, Tony, Bo, come in here. The coach wants to talk to you about the team." So we come running in, and hey, this is it. This is the phone call that we're either going to make it or we're going to be not on the team. So my mom hands the phone to my brother. My brother puts the phone to his ear, and my face is like, literally, it's this close to my brother, and my face is like this. So excited, and my brother's face is like this. "Yeah, coach? Yeah, coach? Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Good, coach. Thank you. Hey, Bo, coach wants to talk to you next." And I take the phone, and my brother puts his nose an inch from mine, and he's like this. And I'm like this. My whole face sunk based on the information I was just given. And I turned, and I hung up the phone, and my brother's face just sunk. And as I hung up the phone, pain I ever felt in my whole life, I said this as I hung up the phone. Never forget it. "That's never happening again." And so for the next 40 years, 30, 40 years, I don't let them send me home. They try to. You may want to one day. You may try to get rid of me. I don't go away. I've been cut. I've been sent away. I don't leave. All I know is I'm hanging in there. I don't let people send me away. My whole life has been defined by that one little moment. That's the moment I want from you. That's the moment. Your occupation, whatever you've built in your life, you've done it for a reason. And the reason is probably this defining moment back probably between the ages of 9 and 12. That's where I want you to go. I want you to go to that. You got dumped at the prom. It may have been your mom told you you were the worst singer in America. It's usually a rejection. And then you fight to get back in there. You right that wrong. If you think of every elite athlete that you see on ESPN, every one of them has the same exact story. And that is they got cut when they were kids. They were told they were no good as an athlete of some kind. You're no good, go away, kid. And they turn that into a pro career. It happens to every elite athlete. Now, say you're a financial advisor. Well, every great person that's great in business and great in finance, there was usually some kind of, period in their life where their parents lost everything, or an uncle went bankrupt. And they're out to right that wrong, which makes them excellent at being your financial advisor because they're fighting for it because of this defining moment. All of us have it. It's very simple, but it tells us so much about who we have in front of us. Because I've told you the Axel story, and because I've told you the Little League story, you're thinking of your life. You're not thinking of my life. You're thinking of your life and what your dreams are and what your rejections are. Well, that's what you want. You want your audience, the people wanting to follow you, you want them in their own life, and that's exactly what we're doing. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put the pin at the top of the paper. We're going to start. I want you to start the sentence like this. When I was 9, or when I was 12, or when I was 24, and I want you to tell that story of that defining moment. But start with your age. When I was 8, I sang in the choir, and they pulled me out and said, "You are the worst singer in the world." And then that person ends up being Michael Jackson or Bruce Springsteen. That's usually typically what happens. I want to know your defining moment. I'm going to give you some time. I'll give you 4 minutes. I'm going to give you 4 minutes. No, I'm going to give you 5. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. 5 minutes. I want you to write. I don't care about spelling. I don't care about punctuation. I want you to let it rip. When I was 9 years old, I had a dream. When I was 8 years old, my brother punched me in the eye. I want the defining moment, and just keep writing and see what happens. I'll give you 5 minutes. Ready? Do this. Be a pro. Do it. Be the best. You do it. Ready? Go. Don't let the pen stop. Don't let it stop. Be the best. Let it rip. Don't think. Let it go. 1 more minute. Keep going. Okay, let's wrap that up. That's 5 minutes. Good job. Congratulations if you did that. That is, I know that's not an easy thing to do. It takes everything to create something into a void. Listen, I was given that assignment about 17, 18 years ago. 18 years ago, I was given that assignment with about 100 people in this class that I was taking. The man who gave me that assignment is a guy named Larry Moss. I did it. And out of that 100 people, that story, that little story that you just took down, that I took down in that initial time I was assigned this, that play, that story has employed me for the last 18 years. So I've never had to wait for the phone to ring again based on a story. One story, a defining moment in my life. So that story turned into a one-man play, which went to Broadway and became this gigantic hit. It also got bought as a movie by Frank Darabont. Frank Darabont's the guy who wrote and directed The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile. He saw that story. He said, I want that to be my next movie. So I get hired to write the screenplay. But I've never written a screenplay. They don't care. They want me to write the screenplay. Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire and Tom Cruise and Nicolas Cage, they come to the show. They come to the play. They come running backstage afterwards. Tobey Maguire and Leonardo DiCaprio come into my dressing room after the show. And then a movie for us. I said, I don't write screenplays. They go, yes, you do. Based on my story, the one you just did, turned into one occupation after another: screenwriting, speaking, performance, playwriting, talk show. I have my own events now. It never ends. All the things you can do because of your story paves the way. Just like all those leaders that we talked about, it paves the way. It gives people connective tissue to follow you, and then they start making up occupations for you, even though you may not think that that's you. I didn't think I was a screenwriter. Then I hear how much they get paid to write screenplays. DiCaprio goes, yeah, we pay this much for screenplays. I go, oh, I guess I do that. You see what I mean? So then it just keeps growing and growing and growing it. But you have to have the courage to actually do the exercise. So you could be cool, right? You could be cool and go, hey, I'll do it later. Or, yeah, I don't have time. You must do it. You must do it. You must get your story out. Because if you don't, it's never going to be seen in any other medium. No one's ever going to tell it. How many people on this planet? 7 billion. Is it 7? I think it's 7 billion people are on this planet. Does anyone know when the first man laid the first footprint on this earth? Some studies say it's 6 million years ago. Some say it's 1 million years ago. Regardless, think of all the people who are on this earth now, who have come before us and are going to come after us. And you are a one-time phenomenon. You. Only you have seen what your eyes have seen. Only you, out of all those people, of all those millions of years, have walked in the shoes that you've walked in. Only you can tell the story. And if you don't tell it, then shame on you. Because you've spent a lifetime mastering it. It's time to express it. That's why I want you to do the exercise. That's why I want you to do it. Then your job from that moment on is attaching molecules to that written word, meaning rehearse it, meaning memorize it, understand it, and start to talk to people and tell your story. So anytime you have people in front of you, which we have hundreds of people in front of us every day, whether it's in a bar or whether it's in the boardroom or whether you're meeting a friend to watch a football game, you've got a chance to rehearse and practice your story. That's what I want you to do. That is your new job. Your new job is to express how you got here, why you built this thing that you've built. Why? And then where are you going to take us? You have to rehearse enough to attach these molecules to that little story that lives right on your piece of paper right now. And then the generosity piece comes in. Like, how generous are you going to be with your own story? How much of yourself are you willing to give? That's up to you. I've been around the greatest performers, of our time, and I could go through them. Joe Montana, probably the greatest quarterback of all time. Jerry Rice, they were both teammates. Ronnie Lott, probably the best free safety of all time, a teammate. Warren Moon was a teammate, co-captain with me. Mikhail Baryshnikov, the greatest ballet dancer ever. Got to know him, got to hang out with him. Al Pacino became a mentor of mine, maybe the greatest stage performer of our time. Carl Lewis, fastest man in the world. He's got like 7, 8 gold medals. These are performers from every walk of life, right? Everything. They're all the same. They all do the same thing. They do the little things. They rehearse and they practice. And they get better, and they get better, and they get better. And that's all they do. And people hire them based on their story. What is their story? That's what they get. That's what I want you to have. I want you to be the best in the world in your field. You can do that. Because guess what? You're already born that way. You've just got to master this thing. You've got to attach this dangerous physical prowess that you have to your story and start moving around with it. Do what you do that makes you come alive. What is it? What makes you come alive physically? Is it dancing? Is it running full speed? Is it hunting? What is it? Whatever makes you come alive, whatever makes your body kick into gear, that's what I want you to do. And while you're doing that, I want you to attach these words, these little words that you just wrote, that you're going to rewrite and rewrite and rewrite and attach them to you, and you're going to begin to say them. You need to speak in these terms. That's the only way people know how to follow you. It's the only way that people know how to follow you. Otherwise, they don't know what to do. They may like you, they may think you're attractive, but they don't know how to go to business with you, how to date you, how to ask you out. They don't know anything until you lay it out for them. Does everyone understand this concept? If you don't ask questions, I will answer them. In fact, we have a few questions coming in, and I'll see if I can answer those, or at least one of them right now. Todd, how are we doing? What's the question?
Okay, so we have a question from Andrew. It says, what's one thing you think busy entrepreneurs can learn quickly and implement to help them?
Yeah, can everybody hear? Todd, do you know that? Can they hear you on that?
I might have to repeat it.
So the question is this. Repeat it one more time, Todd.
It says, what's one thing a busy entrepreneur can learn and implement to help them?
Yeah. What a busy entrepreneur? What is the one thing that they can implement quickly, like right away, today, now, to help them? And I just have been training you on the very thing. It's you. It's your story. Look, thousands of years your ancestors have told stories around a campfire. You know how to do this. You just need to dust off these expression muscles that have gotten fat and flabby because we've been in an information age for too long. That information age is over. Now it's the age of the storyteller. The highest paid person in this century will be the storyteller, regardless of occupation. I don't care if you're selling a toy or an egg or a coaching program. Doesn't matter. It's your story that they buy. That's it. Attach your story. That's the first thing I want you to do quickly now, because it's easy. And you have bodies to practice in front of every day, all day. So use it. Are there any more, Todd?
Okay, we have a question from Sandy that says, my story is very sensitive, and it's hard for me to tell it without offending my family, my friends. How do I?
Yeah, so let's talk about this for a second. So a lot of you have stories that you don't want to repeat, right? At least some aspects of it. You have to use your judgment on this. I can't tell you, hey, go and expose your family or expose this person. You know, there's certain legalities to that. I don't want you doing that. But like when I told my story, it wasn't, you know, necessarily popular with my family because I was talking about certain things that, you know, we as a family just didn't talk about in public. But I asked their permission. I wanted to do it. I wanted to express myself. I wanted to find my own voice. So you're going to have to use your own judgment. If it's cool to talk about in a business setting or in a social setting, then it's totally fine. Like I talk about getting cut from Little League. I talk about these things all the time, you know, and they work because they're personal. Well, look, you've got several defining moments in your life. Not all of them are going to be off limits. Some of them are going to be usable. Like Little League's usable. So I use it to connect me to people. And let's just back up for a second. Why are we telling our personal story? Why would we do that? Because if you're going to lead, so you own a company, that means you're the leader, right? You're an entrepreneur, you're a solopreneur, you're the leader. You're it. You're the brand, you're the mouth, you're the face. You're it. The only way people know how to follow you, and they know how to follow Julius Caesar, and they know how to follow Lady Gaga, and even Osama bin Laden, the only way they know how to follow them is because they're laying out their story. And then their audience is coming to their story. The number one ability every leader has had to have, story. You've got to tell yours. You've just got to tell it. People will follow you. They will. I guarantee you right now, there's people surrounding you right now that want to follow you right now. They just don't know how. They don't know where you're going to take them. You've got to tell them, this is where I've been, this is where I'm headed. So when I tell you about catching 1,000 balls a day, this is what my audience does. When I say 1,000 balls a day, all you're thinking is, oh my gosh, this guy Bo, he's a committed guy. He's loyal and committed and driven to do one thing over and over and over again for 20 years until he becomes the best at that one thing. I didn't say that to you. You're the one who came up with that decision. I just said I caught 1,000 balls a day. You're the one going, okay, this Bo guy is committed. This Bo guy is kind of crazy. I like him, or I don't want to be around him. You're the one telling my story for me. So if you're on this telecast, you're either with me or you're not, and that's fine. That's what I want you to be able to do too. When you start to tell stories of these defining moments, people understand you and they get you and then they follow you. That's what you want. That's what you need the most. That's how you could just, you can go anywhere you want. I was training two of my clients in New York City, and they rented a hotel suite in New York City, right? So there we are, and I'm training these two, and they're financial advisors, right? So I'm training them on their own stories. At the end of the training, they go, hey, Bo, how would you like to go hunting? I'm like, we're in New York City. Well, what do you mean hunting? I grew up hunting, but not in a city. They go, no, we'll have a car pick us up. We'll take us to our hunting club. So we do. They take us to this hunting club. And this hunting club was off the charts. I mean, you can't believe how nice this place was. It was like a country club, but you shot things, right? And you had to wear this outfit, and I had a name tag, and I was a guest. And at this club, it's the most exclusive club in the United States. Hunting club, very expensive. Every person in there was the biggest bigwig on Wall Street, right? So they're all in there, and they're having a big dinner, and they're smoking cigars, and they're drinking scotch, and me, So they're all, and their wives are with them, and they're on this big dinner. And then I'm sitting there, and the oldest guy of these 60 men comes walking over to me. And he's probably 84, 85, comes walking right up to me. And he goes, young man, what's your name? I go, my name is Bo. He goes, young man, what do you do? I said, and I never say this. I mean, I never say this. So I actually teach people to tell their own stories. This old guy hits me in the chest with his finger like, boom, and he goes, story. And I go, yeah. And then he goes, boom, he hits me again, and he goes, connection. And I go, yeah, you don't have to hit me, old dude. But that's it. Story and connection, that's it. And he goes, young man, do you have a card? I said, no, I don't have a card. I was at the hunting club, I don't have a card. He goes, I think you could help my firm. He turns around and walks away. I turn to my client, and I say, hey, man, that crazy old dude just hit me in the chest twice, and he was pretty fired up about me teaching people story. Should I follow up with that guy? And my client goes, oh, yeah, you better follow up with that guy. Do you know who that is? That's Peter Kellogg, and this is his club. And he just sold his company to Goldman Sachs for $6.2 billion. Yeah, you better follow up with him. So I'm like, this is great. He came back, and we talked, and we kept talking, and I helped his firm. The reason I tell you the story is this. This guy is a wealthy guy. This guy owns a lot of things. He's very smart. He knew when I said I teach people to tell their own story, he hits me as hard as he can and goes, story. He goes, that he's built his companies based on that story, connection. There's nothing else to build it on. There's nothing else to build it on except that. And the more personal your story, the better off it is. Everybody get that. This is what I want to do. I want to talk about my event. I have an event, and it's a 3-day event. It's called Personal Story Power Event, and this is what I do. I put people in a room with me for 3 days. Now, day 1, they capture their story. Day 2, they physicalize their story. Day 3, they perform, and they get on stage, and I teach them how to rehearse. Well, it's not only me. I bring the team that built Run to the Litter. Run to the Litter is the play that I told you about. Run to the Litter, I never written any play before in my life. It was a one-man show, went to New York City. The New York Times named Run to the Litter the most powerful play of the last decade. I'm going to train you by the team that trained me to create the most powerful play of the last decade, which has employed me for 18 years straight. And there's no end in sight. Because of a story, because of a personal story, because of the physicalization of that story. When people come to my event, when you come to my event, this is what you're going to see. This is what you're going to see on the theater doors as you enter this event. You're going to see a sign. And the sign is the same sign that is the most visceral memory that I have of playing in the NFL. I played for the Houston Oilers for 4 years and the San Francisco 49ers for a year. And when I played, there was 28 teams, and there was 28 locker rooms throughout the country. And these 28 locker rooms had 28 signs on them. Simple sign. And the sign said this: absolutely no admittance. Players only beyond this point. The biggest celebrity in the world can't get in that room. The President of the United States does not gain entry into that room. The richest person in the world can't enter that room. There's only one way to enter. You got to earn it. You got to earn it. And you earn that through blood. And you earn that through your story. I do my events, my personal story power event, 3 days. I do them in a theater in La Jolla, California. This theater is grand and Broadway style house. I want you to fill this house up with you. I want you to be able to take that stage and fill it up, because if you can do it in a room that vacuous, then you can go into any room and you'll own the room with your predatory instincts, with your raw animal instincts. Because day 2 of this event, you're going to have Jean-Louis Rodrigue, the greatest movement coach in the world, the one that works with the FBI, the one who works with Leonardo DiCaprio, the one that trained me to be dangerous in front of people and don't apologize, so that people have to watch me, so that people have to watch you. Imagine what that feels like. Imagine when you're standing in front of 500 people or 1,000 people and they can't take their eyes off of you. That's why I bring this team in. Because what they've done is they've created the most powerful play, a one-man show, the most powerful play of the last decade. That's what I want you to have as far as your story is concerned, so that your business can just go through the roof. And that's the only way I know how to train you. Here's a qualification of who works with me and who doesn't work with me. I'll break it down for you really easy. And it's going to be done through, guess how? Story. You guys remember a couple years ago, there was this video that went viral, and it was on all the news stations. Everyone was reporting on it. And what it was this, they had this video camera inside the New York City subway of a platform. And the platform had 200 people on the platform waiting for the train to come. And you could see the light of the train coming down the tunnel. And these 200 people on this platform. Well, this epileptic kid, about 15 years old, walks over, and he's starting to have a seizure, walks over to the opening of the tracks, falls off the platform right on top of the tracks. 200 people with the train bearing down on this epileptic kid. What do? 200 people. They point. They point at the kid. They point at each other. They point at themselves. They point at the kid. Everybody's pointing. 200 of them. One homeless black dude makes his way over to the opening, dives onto the tracks, the train, whoo, right over top of both of them. He saves both their lives. He lays on top of this epileptic kid and saved his life. If you are a pointer, don't work with me. If you are that homeless black dude, you work with me. Players only beyond this point. That's who I work with. That's who you're going to be in this room with this intimate, small group in this vast Broadway-style house. And we're going to paint those walls and that ceiling and that stage with your humanity, with your masculinity, your femininity, your story. So everywhere you go, people can't look away. Now, the benefits, what this means to you. What this means to you is the promise that I told you earlier. And it's the only promise that I ever make to my people. You do what I say. Or better yet, you just do what I do. And the promise is this: people won't have the ability to look away from you. Imagine that life. Imagine that life. Imagine your bottom line. If people don't have the ability to look away from you. If you're the dangerous predator cat that you were born to be, and we can access that and get our hands on you and get that story up and moving and with your full expression, people won't have the ability to look away from you. But it takes all the courage you got. This is not for the faint of heart. It's just not. When you sign up, when you click the button below, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to send you something today. And this something is the most powerful play of the last decade, Run to the Litter. I'm going to send you a DVD copy of a live performance of that play. Now, I don't sell that play. That play is being made into a movie, which you're going to be going to in the next couple of years. I'm going to send you the play. It's a one-man. It's just me on stage. I lose 12 pounds per performance. So 12 pounds comes off of me. You're going to watch it happen. I'm also going to send you this script to Run to the Litter, the most powerful play of the last decade. You're going to take that DVD. You're going to watch it. And you're going to look at black and white words in the script, and you're going to go, how is Bo going to attach these dead black and white words? How is he going to attach action and physicality and generosity and personal notes to these words? How's he going to do it? And then you're going to watch the DVD, and you're going to see exactly how I do it. I'm also going to send you today 6 CDs, and these 6 CD audio set, what it's going to do, it's going to take you soup to nuts all the way through the making of Run to the Litter, the writing, the capturing. It's going to take you through those exercises. Then the physicality, the warm-up, the rehearsal period, what it takes, then the whole performance aspect of it all. Because listen, we live in a performance-based world. If you can't perform, you're dead in the water. If you can't tell your story, people don't know how to follow you. That's why I'm teaching you. This is the most important work there is. The investment on this 3-day event in La Jolla, California is $1,997. That's a good deal. You should do that. This is the most powerful 3 days you're ever going to be witnessing. You're going to be locked in there, and it's going to be all you got. And you're going to come out armed after 3 days. You're going to come out armed with the most powerful thing that you've got, and that's you, the expression of the life that you have mastered, the life that you have had a broken heart in, that you have bled in, that you have lost everything in, and you have joy and success and championships, and you get to have it all. But people need to know this story, and if you don't tell it, no one will ever know it. And if you don't tell it, your business is limited. Your company is limited. Your reach is limited. But if you do what I say, and more importantly, you just do what I do, and you master this story, then you get to have pretty much everything you want. Click the button below. I'd love to have you. I'd love to get my hands on you. So would Jean-Louis. So would the producer of Run to the Litter. Love to get you in that theater and just paint the humanity on the walls so that you are unstoppable. Click the button below, and I will see you in La Jolla.